minutes from November 4th.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Okay, so that was that. We had several so-called revotes, and this is on the, I believe it's like the second page, and where it starts, a revote of the offices was conducted by Assistant Executive Director Colleen Whalen. That's how the page starts. I don't have a number on the page.
Second page.
The second page, right, okay. Then it says, a little, well, third of the way down, it says, the meeting was turned back over to the chairman to continue. And then there was 1, 2, 3, 4 items that were revotes. But there's no mention that it was a revote. So could we put a note in there to continue with a revote of 4 items from previous meetings? Just to make a note that those were revotes.
Sure, that's fine.
And that's the only thing I had.
Thank you.
On my phone, I'll show
So you made an amendment to the original motion?
Yeah, the amendment on the minutes for November the 4th was to include on page 2, where it says the meeting was turned back over to the chairman to continue, and for a revote on 4 items
Thank you.
from previous meetings.
We'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Delgadillo? Yes. Commissioner Peskovic?
Yes.
Commissioner Daley?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett? Yes. Commissioner Richardson?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the Tenants Association.
Tenants Association helped hand out meals to the residents in the complex. They just wanted them. Some of them we had to hand deliver. We're going to have a pancake breakfast and a meeting on Saturday morning. And we're going to try to do a New Year's lunch instead of having something for Christmas out of the association's funds that we raised from our yard sale.
Great.
So that's about it for the month of December. But we were thinking of lunch on January 1st. We were going to do a breakfast, but then we decided we might not want to be up that early for breakfast, so we're going to do a little luncheon.
Nice.
Me and my group will get together and we'll vote on it Saturday.
And just FYI, I'm not sure if any of the residents want to participate, but the North and South River Watershed Association annually conducts a walk on New Year's Day. I think it starts around noon or so, maybe 1 o'clock. But
You know, most of our residents don't like to walk in the cold, and it's just hard for us to get out and walk around in the cold.
right.
On January 1st?
January 1st. And the Elks have a polo plunge on January 1st too, so.
Right.
You can do that.
I don't think so. I went there one year, I almost froze to death. Because my crazy son jumped in the ocean.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the accounts payables and payments. And we do have that in 2 different formats. One, I believe, is the summary, and the next gives you a little bit more explanation. I did have a question on payment number 16256 and 16259. They're to an individual and then a second individual. Small amounts, $144.30 for the first, and then $555 on the next one.
16256 is a refund for rent, and 16259 is for the painting of the windows here in the Price Fighter.
Okay. So refund for that, so that's under a voucher program?
No, it's when somebody, when somebody leaves here, if they leave in mid-month, they pay their rent on the 1st. If they leave mid-month, for any particular reason, if the unit is in good condition, they get their,
Okay.
they get the rest of the
Right,
rent.
so that's
Rent
just the new
prorated.
address of that person,
Yes.
and that was mailed?
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
I have a couple of questions.
No, go ahead.
When you make a
I thought
motion
we
first,
I'll make a motion first. and
I'll make a motion. To accept the accounts payable payment 16236 to 16266 for a total of $47,883.37.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, further discussion. A couple of things. Maybe I get some clarification from one of the staff here. I like how this is printed out, so you have to flip the page like that, which is okay.
You like it framed like that?
I like it same on page to page, because I kind of turn things that way, but that's okay, it doesn't make me. On the payment, let's see, I think it's 16260 Sherwin-Williams Company, Church Street.
I'm sorry, could you mention the number again, please?
16260, payment number 16260, Sherwin-Williams Company. Total amount of $2,948.74. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the breakout sheet, on the breakout form, there's 6 different items, it looks like.
What page is that?
That's page 4
4, okay.
of the H&S accounts payable detail report. It says shades.
Those are shades for the windows in the
Right.
tenants' apartments.
But is it for multiple apartments, or was it just for one apartment?
Multiple
Because
apartments.
I see different dollar amounts that I know would be typical for like doing a single room, if you were buying paint, for example. But then I saw the shades item, and I said, wow, is that? I'm assuming that these projects here were for turnovers, right, on apartments?
And sometimes people need new shades.
Okay, so is that just for one apartment, or is that
No,
multiple?
that's multiple apartments.
Multiple apartments. So, okay, so the next question I have is payment 16261. It says void, Town of Marshfield, for $68,210. And it's like on line 1 of the detail report, it says 68,210, and then on line 2, it has like a subtraction of that amount. So what happened there? Who voided it and what was voided?
The check was issued, and then we voided it out, and that's why it was negative $68,210. So the total payment distribution ends up being 0.
Okay,
So that's a 0 underneath it, so you have the 68,000 minus the 68,000
right,
is 0. And the reason why it was avoided was, it's not supposed to come out of your operating funds. That's actually an expense that we're gonna be able to get reimbursed by the state. So we
okay,
voided it out of operations, we submitted it to the state for reimbursement, and once the state reimburses it, usually within 30 days, then we'll issue the check from those reimbursed funds.
okay. So how do you identify the operational fund? Is there a code here?
All these disbursements come out of the operational fund.
Okay,
they come out of your operating account, but some of them get allocated towards state funds. So to answer your question, best would be if we took a look at,
There's another one called Void Yankee Wood Carvers, 16266, for $6,200.
all right, what number was that, 66?
16266, yeah.
Yeah, so if we look at, if you go over to the second to last column from the right, so you have net payment, you have type, and then you have your GL account codes. So typically, the 10 number is a Marshfield identification number for us.
Say again, where's the GL code, where is that?
If you go from the right, the first column is net payments, the second column is type, and then the third column falls under distribution GL code amounts.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if you look at the check that you just mentioned, 66 at the very bottom, under the word Plymouth, Mass, you'll see the number 10-671. So to us, 10 means Marshfield because we gave you guys the first two digits of 10.
Right.
And then the 671 is your 671 program. And then the 4430 is our contract materials cost account for us.
The account, materials, what?
Yeah, material costs.
Material costs account.
Yeah, so if it was a state reimbursement, let's see, the other one was the state reimbursement one, was the void one. That was getting charged incorrectly to 671, and that's why we voided it out.
Okay.
I'm trying to find if there is a payment here, that is a state payment. Oh, let's see, if you look at, this is 1118, there's a report 1118. Which one is this? Report printed 1118. You guys
This is
have
the
that?
one.
You're looking at
It's
20.
1120.
I don't know why I have
I
1118.
had this 1120.
All right, let me see if there's one that's, the state reimbursement would start, instead of 10, it would start with a 60. So that's how you know what's coming out of the state fund. I'm just trying to see if there's one here.
I don't think we get that, do we?
You need,
Because everything comes in out of 10.
well, that's because there wasn't a state reimbursement with this check run, that's why we don't see one. So I have a report here dated 11/18.
That was October's, I believe,
So it was, yeah, it was October's,
which we are voting.
which you guys, I guess, don't have.
We voted on it last time.
You what?
We voted on it last month.
So that's why it's in my packet.
Oh.
I guess. I could show you, I could walk around and show you where the 60 is if you want. That way you'll be able to decide, you'll be able to decipher between a state reimbursement versus a,
John, what may be helpful to everybody is just a chart or whatever with a list.
Chart of accounts.
Chart of
I can
accounts.
give you guys
That'd
a
be
chart
great.
account
Sure.
next week. So to answer your question, sir, let's see, it's right down, let me just look at it. There it is, right here. See, if it's a state reimbursement,
Right,
it starts with a 60.
okay.
All right, if it's a 10,
Yeah, we voted on that in November.
and this is a project
Right.
ending 95,
Mhm.
so that's how we know what project number it is. So there's your state reimbursement. This is an expense coming out of operations, and I'll get you that chart of account next month.
That'd be great.
Thanks for clarifying that. And I look forward to it.
No, that's fine.
Good.
It's good to have these detailed reports.
That is the accounts would be very helpful.
Yeah, I'll have that for you. Is next month okay, or do you need it
Yeah.
sooner?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, that's all I
I
had.
have a question. Line item on the general ledger is 16244, County Plymouth Sheriff's Department for 5210. What is that for, Colleen?
That would be for constable charges.
Of course. That's court records, okay.
Any other questions? We'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Peskovich?
Yeah.
Commissioner Daley?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes. Thank you. Motion to review, approve, certify, and submit to EOHLC the fiscal year 25 budget.
Can I get a motion?
May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Yeah, maybe John might be the one that, why are we approving this now? Is this a running tally on the fiscal '25 budget?
I didn't get it in my packet, so I don't know.
Want to take mine, John?
Budget summary worksheet, as of June, for fiscal year June 30th, 2025, so this is your current budget for this year. So what is,
So basically, what happens is that although we create the budget in a timely fashion, it normally isn't approved by now EOHLC. And so we have to, approve it. All right, I thought
We
we
have
had
to wait
already
for the
approved.
guidelines to
That's
come
gonna
out
be-
from the state first.
Say again? Say
Right,
again?
John, we have to wait for the guidelines for the budget to come out from the state before we can even prepare the budget.
and they also have to finish up last year's financials
Right.
before they can do the budget. So we can't even submit the budget to the state until we have last year's financials complete. So typically the accountants, as you know, are about 2 months behind anyways.
Right.
So that's why we're submitting the 2025 budget halfway through this year, right, almost.
Which is actually, we're actually early.
You are early, because, I mean,
Yeah,
I had another municipality that we need a vote on the 2024 budget.
Wow.
yeah.
So sometimes it's just the way that things get accounted, between the different, the
different
accountants and the processes. So this isn't unusual, Commissioner.
It's not unusual.
It is not unusual.
It's an unusual situation, that's not unusual.
It's a
It's
housing.
unusual that we're only, well, not unusual.
It's a good thing, because you figure your year started in July, and we're in December, so we already have this number of months of real numbers.
Right.
So that's kind of giving them a guideline of how things are going for the year already. So the budgets are pretty much on target usually.
The problem is, for me, is that we're talking about the budget for the year that we're in, and I'm trying to recall from whatever budget proposals were made last spring and summer.
So maybe you can review the board's role in approving the budget both as a proposed budget and at submission time.
Yeah.
Do we vote on both?
I don't know if you did this past spring. Did you vote on a proposed budget this past spring?
I thought we did.
I thought
it was on the agenda.
I know we reviewed the proposed budget. I'd have to go back and look in the minutes as to whether or not we voted on it.
We usually don't submit a proposed
I
budget to
believe
the
that was
state.
you may have voted on the capital.
Oh, yeah.
You
Of
may-
the capital,
It was
the
the
state
capital,
capital.
yes, the state
It
capital
was on
site.
the castle.
That's what you
Yeah.
voted on last April,
But we didn't vote on the,
on
Proposed
an
budget.
operating
Proposed.
budget.
Yeah, we want to submit a proposed budget to the state for the proposed operating budget. And usually it is I think the guiding principle here is the previous year's financials have to be complete, approved by the board, submitted to the state before we can even submit a proposed budget to the state. And then, so all that stuff has to be done first. And we know that the accountants usually run about 2 months behind anyways, closing out the month in a year. So that's July, that's August, that's September. And then they start putting together the budget. You know, because they finish in September and then they go over to the budget. So that's October, November, and they get it done, and now here we are voting on it. So that timeline is actually accurate.
Well, how can you vote on your final figures for fiscal '24
You do.
and not have a proposed budget, both capital and operating,
Well, the whole thing,
already
Sorry.
done? I mean, so it's like you can't even vote on a budget for fiscal '25 until fiscal '24 is ending, is that what you're saying?
yeah, well, I'm saying that we can't even submit the proposed budget or the budget anyways, but what you voted for before, the year-end certificates, the year-end financials, right, that came out, you voted on just that. The budget isn't attached to your year-end financials for last year.
Right, but we should have some idea of where we want to go before the end of fiscal '24 comes around. We should have some idea of what we want to do in fiscal '25.
Well, I think that we do, but the board isn't asked to vote on the budget until now.
And we have to wait until the state guidelines come out for the budget. The state tells us, they tell us how much of an increase you can get
Right.
in operating, the NUL, all of that we have to wait for those specific guidelines to come out. And they don't generally come out until September, October,
But in the
sometimes later.
meantime, we're spending money
Right,
in accordance with a,
proposed
With the
idea
proposed
based on
budget.
what we spent last year.
So for example, if I may, under the administrative salaries and prorations, there's an effective increase of 7% for the, what do we have? We have two actual positions, okay? One is something else, you're paid out of Quincy. By way of our management fee. But there's a 7% salary increase approved for each of the two positions that we have on staff here.
That's within the guidelines of the state. The state
The
sets
state,
those
the state
guidelines.
says they must have a 7%
They
increase?
say we could
Wow.
increase up to.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that that's what's gonna be spent throughout the year.
But I'm
That's
sure
what
that
they
they
want
will-
us to be budgeted.
Yeah, that's what but they're being, so we're being told to approve their 7%. And one of the positions was only created back at the end of '24, beginning of '25. And already and we were told it was gonna be one figure, and now we're being told that that person gets a 7% salary increase.
Well,
Sometimes-
we're not being told that they get a 7% salary increase. What we're voting on is the potential to approve up to a 7% salary increase. So depending upon that, correct me if I'm wrong, depending upon that employee's performance, the executive director will award a performance salary increase from 0 to up to 7% based upon the evaluation of that employee at the appropriate time during this fiscal year.
in the state guidelines.
Now, how do we know that all the performance objectives are being met? Because we
Well,
voted.
they monitor that.
Well, let me explain that again, please. We as a board don't participate in that. So it's the executive director's responsibility to evaluate each of the employees and determine what salary increase they will receive.
It's a day-to-day operation.
Yeah, but I voted as a board member to authorize the creation of that position. And, you know, I've been trying to get information on what is being done in that position. And I think as a board member, because it applies to the mission of the housing authority, I should know what's being done by that position.
Well,
And if it's worthy of support.
What's a job
You
description?
as a board,
We can get
You
your
get
job
the job
description.
description.
Yeah, we can get your job description.
You're not allowed to participate in a day-to-day basis with the employees.
That's correct.
I'm not participating in a
You just wanna
day-to-day
know what the
operation.
position is.
I want to know what the position is and is the objective being
Well, I
fulfilled.
understand your question, I'm just stating a fact.
And it's not a
about
day-to-day
training.
evaluation. It's not interfering with an individual's actual job. I understand the supervisor is essentially the executive director, but if our policy is to support the creation of such support services, then I need to know that that's being accomplished in
So-
general.
As a commissioner, you do have the opportunity to ask the board chair to meet with the executive director to discuss any issue.
Right.
So if you would like to discuss that, you can, call me or email me, and we can discuss that.
Yeah, we could either respond by email or in person if you wanted a face-to-face meeting.
And also, there are some things, since this apparently is just dealing with operational, am I correct? This is just operational matters.
Yes.
I have a question about something on page 13. Near the top of the page on the left side, there's something called conventions and meetings.
Yes.
And there's something called Mass NARO Seacrest.
Secret.
Yeah, that is the spring conference for Mass Narrow.
The spring.
I mean, the annual, that's the.
The annual, and when is that held?
Generally, they switched it. It's now in September.
So this is paying for the September, 2 months ago, convention. That's what that is, 9 days, 2 people, let's say 3 people for 9 days.
Mhm.
And then the fall says Mass NARO, and that's the National
That's actually-
Association of Housing.
Same thing,
Officials.
Mass Narrow. They have 2 conferences a year.
So then there's the NERC NARO,
Yep, North Narrow, that's a different
so that's a
organization.
total of 16 days for multiple staff and a couple of commissioners.
Actually, the days are the total of all of the staff that attends.
Right,
It's not 3 days, it's 9.
and where is the cost related to that? Where do I mean, I see it mentioned here, but I can't connect it to where
It's
the
usually under total travel to conventions and meetings.
total travel.
That's,
Trainings, including seminars and meetings.
Okay. Okay, so, oh, here we go. I see columns, I see training including seminars, meetings, I see $2,500 under column 2, $2,500 under column 3, it looks like, from the top of the page.
yeah.
And then cross total $2,500. So what are we spending for those things? I don't
Well, it's
know.
budgeted for 2,500.
2,500 to attend those conferences.
So when you read this, if you look at 401 MRVP,
Right.
those two will equal the cross
Oh, I
total.
understand that.
And it goes back to the.
So it's, in this case, the 40001 and the rental voucher programs are summarized and allocated according to, for those conventions. Okay. Well, what can we do to have a little more input on something like this? Because this is not beyond the housing authority's purview, is it? Attending conventions and setting aside travel
So if we want
fees?
your employees to be educated.
Yeah, just like I went to a meeting put on by EOHLC in Taunton, and I was told I could not apply for reimbursements for travel.
No, but then you were.
But then it was
But then it was
changed.
closed.
Then it was changed. So for me to do, for any of us to do that, and like you said, we want everybody educated. I would encourage everybody.
That's a day-to-day operation. That would be up to the discretion of the executive director, is my understanding.
What they do and what we do are totally separate issues.
Right.
Well, if I go to a conference
Right.
You bring that to the
You
board.
don't.
It's not discretion of the executive director. I go
Correct,
at my
that's
own
what I'm
discretion.
saying.
Yeah, you guys could vote to go to a conference, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys could decide to spend money and go on a conference.
But where in the budget would we allocate for that? Because I think we really need to give every board member every incentive to attend
it would be under the training. It would come out of training.
under training on this page. So how do we provide for that when we formulate the 2025 budget or 2026 budget?
So I think part of it would be is that if you guys decided that there was a particular conference that you wanted to go to, like, let's say you wanted to go to one of these non-rural conferences. As a board, you guys go ahead and you vote to allocate money to go to that. We take that out of your current operational cost. It's a cost in 2025. You guys have an intention that you'd like to be able to go on a conference every year going forward, and then they could just build it into the 2026 budget. So, I mean, you guys have plenty of cash reserves. You guys could decide to do that as a board.
But as it stands now, if we did it, we would do it at the expense of employees who would be doing it, because
No.
that's a line item.
Well, but what John is asking is, if we decided to go during fiscal 2025 year, it's not already in the budget, so it would be,
You'd just be over budget in that line
it could be
item.
over budget on that item.
Yeah, it's just a budget.
Well, how do we set
Not an
up,
actual.
I hate that, you know, I'm not dissing budgets, but, you know.
I know, but how do we set up some funds for that kind of a thing? And if they get used, they get used. If they don't, they don't.
Right.
I
So,
think
going forward-
my feeling is we would just have a discussion as to whether or not any board member would like to participate in any of the seminars or meetings that are held by either EOHLC or NARRO, and then, we could vote on that as to whether or not we want to put those funds into the budget for the future, or we want to go over budget, this year.
Maybe we could get together a list of conferences that are coming
I
up
was
this
just
year.
gonna ask that,
That's
do we
part
have
of
a
the
list for
problem.
next year that we could actually look at?
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Sometimes these are relatively short notice. They're not scheduled a year out.
That's part of the problem.
Yep.
Maybe we could get something together. for
I would
you,
always
so you can
check.
take a look at it and have further
Mass
discussion next
Narrow.
month.
Always check Mass Narrow's website, they list theirs as soon as they're available.
On some of these conferences and stuff, you can do on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
They might have,
I've
Right.
done Zoom
Yeah.
meetings.
they might have some specific workshops for commissioners too.
Yep, they do.
That would
They
be
do.
more
Mass
important
Narrow does.
than some of the other ones.
Mhm.
Yeah, some of us have already previously attended some of these meetings, via Zoom. But, and I know I receive emails on a regular basis as to, what is coming up. Are you receiving those emails still?
I get emails from EOHLC very, very rarely.
This is from Mass
How
Narrow.
about from Mass Now?
No.
You can sign up at massnarrow.com, I think it is.
If you would like to sign up, and if you can't find it, let us know. But, you can sign up and then you will get an email telling you what seminars are coming up.
Okay, so I'm going to have a question to EOHLC, and that is that you're saying that the executive director is empowered to give up to a 7% pay raise to these personnel, and that we have basically no say. We just authorize the maximum potential pay raise, and then leave it at the discretion of the executive director. That's what you're telling me. Okay, no, I'm gonna check on that, because I just need to know, because when I see increases in our current year's budget, that I had no idea we're gonna be there. Part of that could be ignorance.
I will tell you that nothing's been allocated, no raises have been allocated to this point. They will wait until the budget is approved, and then they will get.
So how will I know if these raises have been given?
Well, I don't suppose you would, until you see,
You would,
Until they get allocated.
until they get allocated.
Right.
you
Once the
can-
budget's approved, then the decision
Yeah,
is made, how much.
okay.
Right, but you can monitor on a monthly basis the amount of
Yeah,
pay that's been given to the employees. We get that on a monthly basis. So if you see, we budgeted, I'm gonna make up a number, $2,000, right, for the year, and all of a sudden we're at 2,100, then I would say to myself, did we go over the 7%?
Well, I'd like to be able to just ask the question.
Yeah,
What raise has been allocated, instead of me doing the math and calculating the percentages on a month-to-month basis? I'd like to just be able to say, hey, by the way,
right.
did a raise get applied, and when was this a raise? Was this raise applied yet, or it has not yet been applied?
Right, or was it retroactive, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, that's right, it could be retroactive,
So-
which I assume it would be.
So, I mean, you have discussion on details of the accounts payable. It just sounds to me like you want a little bit more detail on the payroll. Is that fair to say?
I'm just focusing on this one particular
That
thing.
one thing?
When the budget approval for for the fiscal year we're in
Yeah,
comes in like 4 months after the fiscal year started, and I see a 7% raise, which I presume is gonna be retroactive, since it is for fiscal '25.
not necessarily.
But how do I know?
All right.
Well,
That's all.
you could be correct, but, if you're a normal company, people get evaluated throughout the entire fiscal year.
Oh, they should, yeah.
So they may only get a 7% raise in May of 2025.
Right.
It's not going to be retroactive because they got a raise in May of 2024. So if they're being evaluated on an annual basis, it's going to only impact the fiscal year 25
Right.
for 1 or 2 months.
And now I use that as an example because of obviously many items here. There's utilities costs, there's insurance costs, there's allocations for shelter rent, et cetera. I'm just picking out on the employee compensations as an example, because I see this applies, there's issues with everything else in here, all of the other items.
When you say there's issues with them, what do you mean?
I see the numbers for 2024, FY 2024, and I compare them to the numbers for FY '25, for example. And I see decreases and increases that some of them could be a little bit of a red flag, like a decreased subsidy, for example, a decrease in resident services, for example,
So,
employee benefits changes.
Where you.
Well, looking at page 1, for example, the very first page, this one right there.
Okay, and if you're looking at a decrease in.
Yeah, like in resident services, it goes from 5,693 in fiscal '24 down to $500. As an example, I don't expect you to go through each line item with me right now and explain each change, but I do see multiple changes.
okay.
So resident services, I'm just looking here, that's account number 4191. Fiscal year 2025 says 500, fiscal year '24 says 500.
But the actual for fiscal '24 is 5,693. So we budgeted 524,
Okay,
and then we spent 5,700.
Okay,
Is that- I don't know, but is that the part of the grant? That
I can't say off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is,
Details on that.
again, one of the positions here, I believe, started this fiscal year at a state grant of 40, for the number given here. And now we get the state grant, but then we immediately apply a 7% raise. That just,
That was last fiscal year. She was in last fiscal year. She's been here.
but it was the end of,
She's been here almost.
the end of
2 years.
24, right? It wasn't the end of 24?
No, we're in 24 now.
She's been here almost 2 years.
She's been here almost 2 years.
3 years?
2 years.
So what was the grant we voted for last year then?
You had to vote for it every year to extend it.
That's an annual grant.
It's a 5-year grant as long as there's funding, but we have to vote on it every year.
Okay, that's not clear to me, I'm sorry. It just appears like we hired somebody at X number of dollars per year, and immediately,
It's not
An
immediate,
increase.
she's been here almost 2 years.
well, okay, I'd have to check the dates on that. I have to check the dates on that.
That was-
And there was no raise given last year, so after the first year, no raise was given, right? It stayed flat. Okay, I have to check on that. I can't verify that. But thanks for.
Well, I could verify it. I mean, I'll talk to James about it. I don't know if there's an issue with releasing that information to the board, but I'll ask him.
Well, I'm not sure that we should be discussing in public whether or not an employee got a raise or not.
Just as far as the budget goes.
As far as the budget goes, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're talking
But not
just,
specifically a particular employee.
I mean, if you want me to review this and you're looking for a certification and approval, you know, I have to know that our mission is being accomplished and the money's being spent correctly.
Right,
I'm not asking for personal details
yeah.
about anybody. I'm just looking at this as numbers,
Right.
not as individuals.
So I'll ask James specifically about that resident service and the 7% and see what kind of information
Yeah,
he's pitching on.
is it retroactive? I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's like when you look at,
It doesn't mean they're gonna get the raise, it's just budgeted to get a raise.
but I need to know where the money's going, you know? if
Right,
it's being
well, that's
spent.
what the accounts payable is on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
This is telling you where the money's going, the financials are telling you. Budget's just a guideline, it's just a target.
And I'm not gonna see on the monthly expenditures, like you're saying, Mr. Richardson, that I'm gonna see on the monthly expenditures whether or not that person got a raise. Where would I see it on the monthly pay?
You will not see that.
Yeah,
But
you
that-
would.
but that's not our job. That's not the
Right.
job of the commissioner.
But it's my job to know where the money's going and if it's being spent.
But you will see it's going into whatever account that is. That's where it's going to
On
go.
the payroll account, on the financials on a monthly basis that you guys review.
But that blends things, doesn't it? Doesn't it blend the three positions? The
Well,
payroll, the monthly payroll.
It does.
Okay, so if you can check on that just to see
Yeah,
how that's gonna be applied, I
yeah,
would appreciate that information.
That's fine.
Is it, number one, is it retroactive, is it automatic? And I would still, Mr. Richardson, like, as you suggest, possibly talk to the executive director about the mission and how, if the mission is being fulfilled. I'm not looking for details like, did you punch in, did you punch out when you took lunch, and stuff like that. I'm like saying, are we accomplishing what we are trying to accomplish?
Colleen, you can speak to the accomplishments, what the resident services do here.
Yeah.
And all their activities, I mean, she could do this
all
right
their-
now.
No, I don't want to do that. I want
Okay.
this to be, as the chairman suggested, a discussion about what the missions are. I want to know,
Would you please make a note that we'll put that on the agenda for next?
I don't want to hear a cursory review like, oh, they're doing a wonderful job, which, you know, okay, fine. Let's talk about, there you go. See, I mean, I don't want that myself. I want to know more details.
Yeah,
Without getting into, only details in terms of, is it fulfilling our mission,
right.
right?
So I guess,
I would-
like, this is the job description first, the mission statement for the resident services position.
Right,
And then what have they accomplished since they've been here?
right.
And I think the tenants could speak to that person too, I
Also, the executive director, who
mean,
is,
yeah,
part of their job is to supervise and assess people, and if they feel that they're doing a good job, that's feedback that we should have.
yeah, I think that's fair.
And I need to know if the money's being spent wisely. or, you know, the best way it can be. So there's a meeting there, there's an overlap, I think. You know, I'm not trying to take over their duty, and they shouldn't, and the director shouldn't be taking over my duty, all right? But there is an overlap.
Sure.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
If we look at the number of units on page 1 down towards the bottom,
I don't have page one.
it says 113 under 4001, and then 20 under MRVP.
Where are you, Harry? I'm sorry.
Page 1,
Oh, okay,
down towards the bottom.
okay.
And then the total says 247. And I'm not sure if that's correct. I think it should be 233.
I don't have page one.
Do you see that, John?
I see that. So you're saying instead of 247, it should be 233?
Well, if the number of units is correct under 4001, and if it's correct under MRVP,
It should be 133.
And the
It
total.
might have been a typo, maybe.
it should be 233, but one of those other numbers may be
It should be
incorrect.
133.
Does that include the
I'm
scattered?
sorry,
Does
133.
that include scattered units?
That include, that,
Does that include the scattered units? Does the 113 include the scattered units?
yes,
We'll have to
I
get,
believe.
we'll have to find out.
Okay. So that total number should be no more than 233.
Yeah,
133 rather, and it includes the scattered units. Well, I have a question too. Are you done, Gary? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Page 2, the top of the column, it says revenue. It says 050-1, 051-1. It says budgeted amount, $670,495. It says lines 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. That figure represents the summary of lines 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. And then it's checked off for fourth quarter. First question is, what is lines 1, 2, 3, 5, 7? Where do I see those? And why is it checked off as fourth quarter for program 4001?
I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, it says 6, if I add, if I'm gonna add lines 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, am I adding 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 on that page, or is it on the preceding page? I just don't know where it comes from.
I'll find out for you.
Thanks. And also, further down on the item number 8, where it says DHCD approved exemptions and direct reimbursement, it says resident services coordinator, 60,000 budgeted. I don't know, why is it 60,000? I thought we were talking about is that a different position, or is that the position that we see mentioned on page 5?
Yes,
That's the page, the one we see on page 5.
correct.
So why is that 60,000 and this is a different number?
The grant is.
So I believe that it's approved up to $60,000.
The grant up to, okay.
Up to 60. If I remember right, we voted a couple of months ago, and the state changed the salary range for that particular position, and I think they increased the salary range up to $60,000.
Yeah, I just thought, I remember voting 45. That's sticks in my head.
I think that was a year ago, and I believe,
It was last year.
but I believe
Was
the
it-
most current was up to 60,000.
Hmm. I thought we were supposed to vote to accept those grants. Why wouldn't we vote to
We did.
accept the 60,000?
We did.
We did?
We signed last year,
60,000?
up to.
Up to.
Yeah, I don't remember that, sorry. I just remember up to 45.
I'm giving back to you.
Yikes. All right, John, thank you. If you can find out what that number, how that number is arrived at, I'd appreciate it.
Number one.
Yeah, it
Got
says
it.
revenue. How do
And
you
your
get
other
that?
question was the fourth quarter's checked.
Yeah, why is that
Why
checked?
is that one checked?
Yeah, why is that? If that's for fiscal year ending 6/30/25, I don't understand, why do you check the quarter? And are those four numbers here? No, those different than those columns, that I can't be it.
I'd have to say that that's what is expected to be spent at the end of the fourth quarter. So if it was in the second quarter was checked, these numbers would probably be in half or so.
So, okay, we'll
So I think-
verify that.
Yeah, I will clarify it, but that's how I'm reading that, but I
Yeah.
will get it, I'll get a solid answer from the accountant.
Yeah, and that sounds logical, but
Yeah.
I would like to.
That's what I think's going on there, it's just
Yeah.
the way that the software is running.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, it's all yours, whatever you want to do.
No, thank you. So, John, if you can, and we may need to wait until next month, but if you can explain the maximum reserve, and I know, we're allowed to have up to the maximum reserve. If we have over the maximum reserve, then EOHLC can basically take those funds back from us. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, they can take the funds back, and the other understanding I have is that they're less likely to give you subsidy going
Right.
forward. So they want you to spend the money to take care of the buildings
Right.
and the tenants, so that they probably, I'm not gonna say they're gonna punish them for it, but they wanna make sure that you have at least 35% up to that maximum amount. If you go under it, there's a concern. If you go over it, there's a concern.
Right, so the minimum they want us to have is 35%,
Yeah.
right? And if we go under it, then we could be looked at by EOHLC in a poor manner. If we go over the maximum reserve, and there's no good reason why we didn't spend that money, then basically EOHLC can recapture those funds.
Correct.
So it behooves us to really never go over the maximum reserve. We might as well spend it on whatever needs we have at the housing authority. Everybody agree with that?
And the projected reserve is now over 400,000? Is that what it's saying?
So that's what we're saying here, that
Right.
projected on page 3 of 13 on the bottom right, we're saying we have a projected fiscal year 25 operating reserve of 377,000.
Yeah, but that's only for 4001.
So that's for, correct, 4001.
And if you add MRVP, it's 22,000, so it comes out to 400,000.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
We can spend that? And I was wondering why the subsidy was decreased. When you look at the
Why the
subsidy.
subsidy decreased?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because we have the reserve.
No, actually it increased. I'm sorry, it went from 203 in actual total for 24. It was budgeted 284 for fiscal 24. And then it was,
But the subsidy was reduced,
yeah,
right? So they allocate,
yeah,
right, and EHLC a certain amount, but if you look at our monthly statements, we're always behind budget on the subsidy. And that's why, because we're over reserved right now.
so that's, maybe somebody spotted that, I'm guessing.
Say that again?
Somebody spotted the high reserve, and they calculated the subsidy downward, possibly, is that?
Correct.
No, so it's, I think sometimes it's based on what they anticipate we'll collect from rents. So
Okay.
it basically takes our expenses and what we budget, and then we get a subsidy
Yeah.
if they approve the budget,
Okay,
which is another whole.
okay. No, I thank you, I'm sorry for prolonging this.
No,
but
it's a good discussion.
It's been a journey through the weeds a little bit, but I appreciate it.
But I think, my feeling on this, if we look at where are we again? The subsidy calculation, for fiscal year '25, it's $251,000. So in order, and correct me if I'm wrong, in order for us, for that not to go down and for us to collect the full 251,000, we may want to spend some of our reserves. Am I
We spend
correct?
it on training, et cetera.
Can you spend it on capital?
Separate, right?
I don't believe you can.
I kind of.
I don't know the rule on that.
Well, that's
but-
state, those are,
Oh, this
it's
is
all
state.
state fund too, but
Capital.
that's a different bucket of money.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So this is operations, and
I
this is
think
a
you can call it like a
projection,
truck.
if everything goes well, but like Colleen said, if we, you know, if tenants move out or whatever the case may be,
And we don't collect rent.
and we don't collect rent all of a sudden, these numbers are gonna change, it could have an impact on your,
That's,
so, we
yeah,
wanna be prudent, but we also don't wanna leave money on the table from the state, so.
So,
You
There's a little bit of a
bought
balance.
the truck last
say
time.
that again?
You bought the truck out of reserve
Right,
last time.
we bought the truck.
That's correct.
Yeah,
And
so,
fix
but that's
the
a
lawnmower.
capital.
And we fixed the lawn.
The lawnmower.
So-
We did some repairs.
So maybe we should make a note that come, March, we look at this closely again, determine if there's anything that we need that we should spend money on before fiscal year 2025 closes.
Mhm. It's depending on the percentage of reserve.
if we can access those reserves. If it's, okay. Yeah.
What is the time frame that this budget has to be approved by? Does it have to be voted on this evening,
This is December.
December?
I don't know what the timeline is. John, you might be able to.
I'm just thinking that if there's, since we had a number of questions and we're gonna try to get responses, if we don't have to do a final vote on this, we can wait until our January meeting if that's appropriate.
Do we think these are big enough issues to, most of these are informational, not really operational questions.
Well, there's actual dollar amounts involved here that we don't understand. So it is a big enough issue to me.
My feeling is if we don't have to vote on it, if we can wait till January and you can get some responses, I think we should.
I've got those two issues, and I've got the question on the reserves that you have. So right now we have 3 questions. And then the pay issue. Right, that was the other concern, the resident services. And then the total number of units, 133 versus 247.
Right.
So, there's 5 questions. Is it gonna change the budget, getting these answers? I don't see that these answers are gonna change any of the numbers. I think, the budget's gonna be the budget, even if I give you these answers. But if the board decides to wait a month, certainly, that's the board's prerogative.
Will it hurt us if we wait a month in any way?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Can you answer that?
I cannot.
I
I
can't
don't know what
answer
the
that
deadline is from EHS.
Yeah.
Well, if you found out the deadline was December 31st, we could hold a special meeting.
We could.
On New Year's Eve.
On New Year's Eve.
What day of the walk? I didn't know where I walked yet. I can't.
So if Colleen, if you don't mind, find out if there is a deadline, but in the meantime, we'll
I'll see if
table
we
this
can
until
find
the
one
next
out.
meeting.
All right, well, motion to table.
Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, one second.
I don't think we have a second. I'll second it. Do a roll call?
Commissioner Delgadillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Pesevich?
Yes.
Commissioner Daly,
No.
Commissioner Bennett,
No,
Commissioner Richardson.
Yes. Vote carries 3-2. We'll table it.
With the understanding that if there is a deadline, that we will have the special meeting.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully by then we'll have answers to those questions too.
All right.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the motion to approve change order proposal number 1. The contract with Dandis Contracting, Inc. for state project numbers 171115 Marshfield 705S roof and siding replacement at 635 Ocean Street and 231 Carswell project. Change orders to furnish and install horizontal strapping for nailing for the wood shingles at 231 Carswell. A horizontal strapping is required by the shingle manufacturer's warranty. Change order will result in an increase of $7,003.06 to the contract price and will add 8 days to the contract duration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I was looking at this project, and it is apparently in a flood zone, and there was an issue, according to the stuff supplied in my packet here, that it needed to be evaluated as to whether or not it was a substantial improvement. So was the improvement going to be big enough to require us to elevate the building out of the floodplain? That's what this issue seems to be about. And the issue was, we're trying to now reduce the cost of the project in order to avoid making this a substantial improvement issue.
All right.
So if somebody's, if the director or whoever is designated to track this, apparently they hired Dandis to track the cost related to this? Is that the change order?
Yes,
Do I have a change order
you should have.
contract included in here, like an application for a
You
change?
don't,
I see it from Leonardi Array.
Isn't that though in the motion number 8? There on the agenda, item number 8?
That it would decrease by $8,563.
Motion for change, well, we're on number 7 now.
All right, but motion, I think motion 8 is addressing your question.
yeah, to reduce the cost.
To approve the change order proposal number 1. So the change order proposal number 1 is,
To furnish and install horizontal strapping. Yep.
where is that? Is that in the packet? I'm trying to find it. I see some information there. You know, where the actual summation of that, where they arrived at that figure.
I believe you see the Dandis contracting letters.
Yes. I just don't see the letter that says the change is gonna be $7,003. I see a Marshfield change order proposal dated November 5, which is a month ago, and that's, I see that adds up to, oh, I don't know. Is that the one? Because I don't see the final number on that. 7,003. In other words, I don't see the proposal that says the change is for 7,003. Okay? I don't see it. I'm not saying you don't have it, but
Yeah, I'm wondering
if it just didn't get
Yeah,
concluded.
I'm thinking that this could be the original, and what we're doing is modifying this by adding this, what is it, 7,000 some odd dollars?
Right. And we'll add 8 days to the contract durations. See attached change request and contractor's change order proposal. And when I look at the change order proposal, I see 48 hours carpenter, 24 hours laborer. So I see that. I see strapping.
So it could
5,
be, it may be here.
63.
I'd have to subtract these numbers.
I'm not questioning the numbers, they sound reasonable to me, and it seems like most of it is here, but the total is not here for some
Well, I'm
reason.
wondering, is this the total down here on this page? Well, like, if you take this and you subtract this from that, you get down to almost 7,003.
Yes, yeah, that's it, that could be
So
it.
I think that could be it.
Okay, so the bottom line, so the subcontractor total is given as $77.85 and 35 cents, but then there's an additional 10% to the general contractor, so that's not it.
So that's,
I'm just not seeing where the total is, but, you know, I'm comfortable with that number. It sounds reasonable, and I understand why they're doing it, but I just wish we had that document.
the one you're looking at is the next
For
item.
this one?
Oh, that's for care, yeah, that's for care as well.
Yeah, this
We're
is-
voting on care as well.
Oh, God, you're right.
And Joe's right, the numbers don't, they're not reflected in this change order.
And here's the proposal from Dandis in Canton, and there's no total number there. There's no total.
You're correct.
There's elements of it, but there's not the total.
Right.
So something's,
So this would be fine, except it says see attached change request, and it doesn't match up with,
no, it doesn't.
Doesn't have the change request.
it doesn't have the change request that reflects the numbers in the proposed motion. But we can vote on the motion and then, request that documentation later.
Right.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve that, subject to the provision of the final document indicating that describes and shows the
It
$7,003.
looks like it might have
I'll
just
second
been
that.
cut off.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
You need a second. Did you get a second?
Yep, we did get a
Yes,
second.
we got it.
Yep. Commissioner Delgadillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Peskovich?
Yes,
Commissioner Daly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Next item is number 8, motion to approve change order proposal number 2 to the contract with Dandis Contracting, Inc. for the state project number 171115, Marshfield 705S roof and siding replacement at 635 Ocean Street and 231 Carswell project. Change orders to substitute polymeric siding with monogram vinyl siding by CertainTeed at 635 Ocean Street in order to reduce costs. In response to the Marshfield Building Department substantial improvement determination policy, portions of the scope of work need to be reduced or deleted. Otherwise, the structure will be required to be elevated to or above the design flood elevation. This change order will result in a decrease of $8,563.89 to the contract price and will add 0 days to the contract duration. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
yeah, in this case, the numbers do kind of,
Me too.
Yeah, so that,
but the total number's not given on the document.
58,000.
It's like you need one more line
right.
to get that number,
Looks
so
like
I
it just
understand
been
that.
cut off.
That's all.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Peskovich?
Yes.
Commissioner Daly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes. Madam, vote passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the motion to approve the Board of Commissioners Code of Conduct. I don't, do we have have that, do we have copies of that?
Yep, they're in my packet.
Here's an extra one.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion
You'll make a motion?
to accept the code of conduct as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I can't be in favor of this because I really think this needs some legal review. I think this could create some problems.
The only,
Authority.
How so?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Well, because there are definitions in here that are not, that could be, there are clauses in here that could be arbitrarily applied. There's no definition for some of the things in here, for some of the words in here.
Can you give me an example?
Well, for example, it says here, be well informed, never purport to represent the opinion of the board. But it's kind of straightforward, to act honestly, conscientiously, reasonably, disrespectful, abusive, words like that, they're subject to interpretation. And I don't think I've ever seen that in a code of conduct before. And I've looked at some codes of conduct. And I just think this is going overboard, and it should be subject to some legal review. And I'm afraid of it being applied arbitrarily.
Any other comments?
I got a comment.
I'm asking comments from the board.
Honestly, I for one think that this is, I mean, I know my code of conduct at work is pages long and it's much more detailed and much more restrictive. I think it's kind of basic, no offense, but I think it's kind of like what is expected out of any board member, like respectful, prepared. That's just my opinion. I don't find it very, I find it very general, actually.
I only have one comment, but I don't know if originally we were looking at this as a code of conduct for the housing authority as a whole, including employees, or just the board?
I thought it was just the board.
Just the board?
That was my interpretation, but I'm sorry.
I thought it was just the board too, because of the back page where it has everybody's signature.
It also gives power to the appointing authority may decline to reappoint an individual who violates any provision of the code of conduct. How do you determine if someone violated a provision of this code of conduct? How do you determine that? There's no provision for how you determine if someone's in violation. It just says,
Under enforcement, it does, it kind of gives,
yeah, I see that.
if the board would be the arbiter.
I don't think the board has the power to do that, and it doesn't provide a procedure. It just says that the board determines. Well, how do you determine it? The board just takes a vote, like you've taken votes about me, you know, and just, it's kind of arbitrary. And then it says here that you're going to hire somebody to do an investigation. It's very dangerous, and I'm not voting for it, so that's all I have to say. This should be referred to legal counsel, and it's inviting
I think the,
arbitrary and vindictive actions, which I've seen a lot of since I've been on this board.
I think this code as written is Cecilia mentions, pretty straightforward, pretty reasonable, I think everybody understands what it says and what it means. You know, I don't think it gives the board any more power than it already has. I think it just clarifies expectations around behavior. So I'm in favor of it as it is.
Well, you have no right to set expectations. I mean, expectations is a subjective thing.
What do you mean, you don't have rights to set expectations?
Well, you can do it on your own, but you can't impose it on other people.
The board can. The board can impose it upon the board.
Okay, so you're saying you're gonna impose subjective opinions about a person or about something they say or do.
Yes, I think the
There's
board.
no guideline for what's actually a violation.
I just see this as acting responsibly as a board member.
Well, your
That's how I
defini-
see it.
Well, yeah, that's a definition. Your definition of acting responsibly is a
Right, for the
subjective.
benefit of the
I have,
board that I serve.
right, I have opinions about what's responsible also. We all have different opinions on what's
The
responsible.
board by its nature is built on consensus. And this sets the expectations, and then, you know, we can, you know, act as a board on a consensus around any issues that come up relative to this policy. It's like any other policy.
Yeah, and then you
I
can
don't
get-
think it's controversial.
Then you can gang up on somebody, and that's not what, you know, freedom of protection of rights is about. I mean, democracy is a good thing, except to the point that the minorities always have to be protected. If somebody on this board finds himself in a minority for one reason or another, you know, where are their rights? I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for any member.
I would say that tonight, everybody acted by the code of conduct that's written here. And there'd be no issue with anybody, even though our votes were sometimes, whether somebody abstained, whether somebody voted no, and other board members voted yes. So, you know, I don't think that to me, I don't see a real issue with this code of conduct. I would say that we should take a vote on it. I would also have no objection sending it to our attorneys at the Housing Authority for them to look at it, but I do think that we should take a vote on it this evening.
And one other thing, again, it says here, officials must refrain from communicating or acting in a disrespectful, abusive, and/or threatening manner towards members of the community. Now, what does that cover? Just when I walk down the street and somebody gives me the finger and I yell back at them or something like that? I mean, that's pretty broad. So go ahead, do what you do, submit it to council and let them weigh in on it, but I won't be voting for this, not in a million years.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Freedom of speech.
Commissioner Delgadillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Petzvich,
Absolutely no.
Commissioner Daley,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson.
Yes.
Thank you.
And would you make a note that I will submit this to legal counsel?
And signatures?
Yep.
You have a copy?
I do have a copy to this.
Next item on the agenda is old and new business. Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the managed agency report.
All right, so all I have to report today is what the December events are. Reconnecting with residents, gingerbread house with the families, festive meeting with the director, bus trip to the holiday show at the Plymouth Philharmonic, local children caroling in the afternoon, sanctuary church caroling in the evening, Holiday gifts are being given out to each resident, donations given by the Marshfield community, blankets, adult coloring books, pencil sets, large print word searches and crossword puzzles, hand creams and candies, and then there's going to be a blood pressure clinic.
Any questions on the executive director's report?
Yeah, I mean, there's some transportation issues here. Is there any issues getting, how do we get transportation? There's a bus trip to the holiday show. Is that,
We use the bus from Quincy.
oh, you use the Quincy bus?
Yeah, we have a bus in Quincy,
Oh, how many does it hold?
12.
12? Is that, I would think you'd get a pretty good response. Have to make 2 trips.
No, maybe.
How about the sanctuary church caroling? How do people get there?
They don't, they come here,
Oh, they come here. Oh, cool, okay. Thank
3
you.
o'clock Sunday afternoon,
Awesome,
the 8th.
awesome. That's
My
great.
understanding is that everything else is here except for that bus trip, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that considered a Marshfield Housing Authority expense?
Yes.
Okay, but you have, so we have to rent the bus from Quincy?
Yes.
We reimburse you?
We reimburse Quincy.
Does that show up on our expenditure?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool. Sounds like
Any
fun.
other discussion? This is the first time I think I'm doing this, but we should be approving the executive director's report. And so, take a motion to approve the executive director's report,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
That's the managed agency report you're calling it.
the managed agency report. Yes, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Persievich?
Yes.
Commissioner Daly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
go in a minute, yeah.
Next item on the agenda is number 12, and there is no business not anticipated by myself. I know at the last meeting, Commissioner Pasevich asked that we have our legal counsel review
That's all right.
the information about public input, and I believe one other item on this, and I have asked that. I have not gotten a response yet, but I will ask this evening if there is any public input, if anybody wants to make any.
Yeah, I'll make a statement.
Yes,
In the previous conduct, I
We have-
mean,
I'm sorry, could you identify yourself?
yeah, it's Cusick on Waterman Ave, you know who I am.
Well,
I
but
don't,
for the
sir,
record.
for the record.
I just
You
said
said what you, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm in trouble here too. It's C-U-S-I-C-K.
And your address?
Gosh,
You said Waterman Ave.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sorry, I did not hear your comment.
you hard of hearing? I am. Are you
I'm
hard
hard
of
of hearing, yes. If you want to come up so we can hear you?
No, I can talk right from here. My comment is that prior vote you had with your conduct policy, it's freedom of speech. And I doubt very much that you can have expectations of an elected member. More or less, your conduct or policy, even that one might agree with me. Is that the claw comes out of the ceiling, grabs you?
That's the buzzer, it's the end of the period.
Yeah, right, yeah, I can't tell. Yeah, that conduct policy should be reviewed by council, but I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything like that. I've been elected for almost 12 years in this town. I've never seen any kind of policy that you voted on. It's freedom of speech.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion for adjournment of the meeting.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Persievich?
Yes.
Commissioner Daly? Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Let's go, Jim.